I continued forward, breathing in the free air. I knew I had been outside in my past life, but having no memory of nature made this experience ecstatic. The view I had felt like a hard-earned right rather than a privilege. A new spring in my step, I rushed towards the edge to fully take in my new world. Beautiful. What? I was plucked up by a massive bird as if I was some shiny trinket. I'm ashamed to admit that I was so shocked by the encounter and the despairing feeling of being bird food that I fainted. I woke up near the end of the bird's journey. It swooped down and slammed me onto the ground. After realizing that I was neither to be the bird's meal nor its plaything, the atmosphere of the sanctuary it dropped me in seeped into my skin, as if I was being submerged in a hot bath. It was heavenly. I was quick to sit down by the bonfire, and I noticed this bonfire was slightly more rejuvenating than the others I found earlier. The fire also seemed to turn to liquid and refilled the flask that Oscar gave me. I learned that this sanctuary was called Firelink Shrine. It was a hub of sorts for traveling undead, such as myself. I was eager to talk to someone. After Oscar's death, I knew I needed some human interaction.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first. But there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now.
What's got this fellow all cattywampus?
Let me help you out. There are...
After insulting me, he explained to me that there were 2 Bells of Awakening, and that I would have to ring both if I were to get any answers about my fate. I didn't know Oscar for very long, but I began to miss him after speaking to this ray of sunshine. This tub of a man didn't make much better company.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thurland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
I pestered him enough for interaction that he actually paid me to leave. This was the first of many times that I desired to slap Petrus of Thurland across the cheek. I thought to myself that if he would have turned the other cheek, I would slap that too. There wasn't much to be found in Firelink Shrine. There were a few chests with interesting gear, but everything else was in shambles. Past the chests, I found a graveyard. Best not to disturb the dead. I noticed a group of hollows nearby. Apparently, freedom did not prevent my fellow undead from losing heart from the circumstances around them. That depressing, crestfallen fellow probably wasn't too far behind them. I understood, then, that Firelink Shrine, much like the bonfires, was merely a rest stop, not a place suitable as living quarters. The last discovery I made before setting out was a young woman imprisoned underneath the bonfire. What on earth was this? It wasn't even a proper cage, just a small crevice with iron bars fitted at the entrance. Who did this to her? I got no answers from her, for she was mute. But even beyond words, she refused to respond to my concern. She didn't seem to mind captivity. At least, she didn't want to mind. I decided to leave her be to her willing imprisonment. If I learned of a way to help her, I'd be sure to return. After further questioning from the crestfallen warrior, I learned that the way to the first Bell of Awakening was through the group of hollows I saw earlier. I donned as much armor as I could without over-encumbering myself, readied my sword, and set out. My confidence was invigorated after felling the demon in the asylum, so I made quick work of the hollows surrounding the steps. What was more unsettling was the dog-sized rat. I put down that spawn of evil as soon as I laid eyes on it. The tunnel led to the Undead Burg, a town of sorts that hollows housed themselves in. It was a shabby old place, and looking around, I could tell that some parts were rebuilt in a poor attempt of preserving a very old fortress. I was on the lookout for more supplies, but greed got the better of me, and I found ambushes to be around every corner. Already, I was feeling the drain on my mind this place had. Despite being quite startled by the dragon, I felt a rise of energy out of spite. This world was set on throwing every man-eating beast it had at me, and I grew excited at the prospect of slaying every single one. My challenge to the world wasn't taken lightly. Hordes of hollows attacked me from all sides. I had to temper my excitement in order to survive. I cleared enough away to reveal another bonfire. I sat down for a while, letting its soothing flame burn away my ailments. When I got up, I realized that there were even more hollows that had replaced the ones I killed. This place was so riddled, I had no choice but to keep moving forward as fast as I could. I traversed through the Undead Burg with patience and diligence. I made sure to kill each hollow I came across, till I noticed a chest up on a balcony. I decided to backtrack, and I found the door that led to it. Alas, it was locked. Further exploration brought me to something quite startling.
Well now, you seem to have your wits about you.
He looked hollow, his eyes deep black pits, and his flesh struggling to stay attached to his skeleton. Despite this, he had his wits about him. He had wares that he wished to sell to me. I didn't have much on me, so I was not eager to buy anything off him. But I noticed a key in his collection. I decided to indulge.
Thank you kindly.
The key worked on the door from earlier. In my head, I berated the merchant for not having the wits to use this key for himself, to broaden his collection. Then I couldn't help but feel guilty. He was completely alone, the only sane man in this fortress. It felt as if I took advantage of him. He had some decent wares to sell. I would be sure to purchase some, should I ever come through here again. All that, and I have no idea what this is. I wanted to proceed before any more hollows joined the fray, but I decided exploring my options couldn't hurt. Seeing a fork in the path, I went downstairs. At the end of the path stood a knight, his back facing me. His height would be enough to intimidate most. What possessed him to simply stand there? It was eerie. I silently weighed my options. So far on my journey, the only creatures that went out for my blood were fellow undead, and they merely tolerated my existence. Hollows attacked anything that moved save for their own kind. By sight alone, I failed to discern if this man was either. The most concerning detail was that he reeked of demonic essence. Whether he was a demon himself, or simply bathed in their company, I wasn't keen on finding out. The more arrogant side of me then spoke. Well, even if he attacks me, I'm a warrior myself. At this point, I have slain many hollows, and even a demon that was much larger than this knight. His stoic demeanor also led me to believe that his wits were about him, and that he could at least be negotiated with. I approached him, making sure to be cautious. Hello there! This world is cruel. By the time the bonfire finished piecing me back together, the place was filled with hollows once again. After clearing them out, I decided to leave the night alone. The virtue of patience is bitter, but the fruit is sweet. I went for the top of the tower, wishing for no further delay. Going through the wall of fog, I came across a bridge. It was eerily empty, and a wave of anxiety struck me. I heard a click, and I noticed two hollows with crossbows attempting to ambush me from behind. After noticing a ladder, I dispatched them. Now that me and the real danger that awaited me were alone, we could have a proper fight. Oh dear. This bridge was not suitable terrain to fight such a massive beast. On top of that, though he shared the weight and slow nature of the asylum demon, they were creatures of different ilk. This one was a warrior. One blow was all it took for me to retreat. Looking down at him from the top, I was reminded of the blow I dealt to the previous demon. Perhaps I could do something similar here. It was perhaps foolish of me, but I did not desire to use cheap tricks on this warrior demon. I was tired of traps and dishonorable ambushes being thrown at me. I wanted to give this demon the opportunity of a real fight. Besides, the top of this tower was much more suitable than the narrow bridge. There were a few close calls, but eventually, I was victorious. Beaten and tired, I was desperate for some shelter. I was a good distance away from the bonfire. Who knows what would happen if I was killed here? There wasn't much to be seen after the demon, but happening upon a doorway and turning left, there was another bridge. It was guarded by many hollows, but lo, there was a bonfire on the other side. If I could just fight through this group, I would be safe.